The NFL playoffs continue, and the Dallas Cowboys are still a part of it, and we are all here for it on StarTelegram.com for another episode of Cowboys Overtime. I am Fort Worth Star-Telegram columnist Mac Engel, and I'm joined by the man who was at the Dallas Cowboys' latest playoff win, Mr. Clarence E. Hill Jr. Clarence, you were there for the big win. The Dallas Cowboys defeat Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Monday night. 31-14. How was your trip, by the way, sir?
My trip was wonderful. I enjoyed Tampa Bay. Got a lot of friends down there. You know, it was a cooler at night, but it's always a good trip to the Bay, and so I had a good time. It looks like the Cowboys had a good time. They retired Tom Brady. I can't believe he left Giselle and his family to get beat by the Cowboys. I mean,
yeah, that tells you how much fun football is. Think about it. Tom Brady was essentially retired for about 15 minutes and wanted to spend more time with the wife and kids. The wife is supermodel Giselle Bundchen, and he loved that so much. He'd rather go back to work and work for a football team that really wasn't that good anymore. Tampa Bay finished the season 8-10. Dallas Cowboys sent them to the offseason with an ugly loss at home, and could be Tom Brady's last game. Before we get into the first, go ahead.
He was awful. He was awful, and I just this whole notion that the Cowboys have never beaten Tom Brady. Well, Tom Brady's never beaten the Cowboys in the playoffs.
How about that? Tom Brady was bad. I mean, he let go of one throw. It was near the end of the game where he looked like he still had it. And it wasn't a completed pass, but it was a classic Tom Brady long throw. And other than that, he's 45 years old. I mean, what are you supposed to do? Before we get into our first topic, we want to thank the great people at Window Nation for sponsoring this episode and for riding with us all season long here on Cowboys Overtime. All right, Clarence, let's get into it, because everybody was talking about Tom Brady, and a whole lot of other people were talking about the other guy, number 4. That is Dak Prescott. Clarence, you've seen every professional game that Dak Prescott has played. Was that the best game and best performance of Dak Prescott's career as a Cowboy?
And I know we're gripped by recency bias, but for the moment, for the game, for the season he had, and everything was said about him, it was clearly his finest hour. Clearly, especially after what had happened last week against Washington, the week before against Washington, and for a guy who had led the league in interceptions and so many questions about him, we all talked about this was a moment of truth for Dak. This was a legacy-defining moment, as you can have in a wild card game, but for so much stuff that he has taken to go out there and play flawlessly. He was perfect. And again, it started out inauspiciously. I mean, he missed his first 3 passes.
Right.
They went 2, 3 and outs. And then he led them on 4 straight touchdown drives and 5 of the next 6 drives. And to really put this game away, it was not just his arm, it was his legs. His whole package was working. It was playoff Dak.
Yeah, he played about as well as a quarterback could. He finished 25 of 33 with 305 yards passing and 4 touchdowns. I really didn't say anything that he did wrong. And, obviously the big question about him was this horrible interception streak going to continue. Obviously it didn't. I think the big thing about Dak and that performance that comes with a slight asterisk, it wasn't like he was playing a very good team, but he went out and did what he was supposed to do. And I think for that reason alone, Clarence, you got to give it to him. Tampa Bay's not very good, but he hammered them.
Tampa Bay was a top 10 team defensively. They have not been a great team overall. They didn't score a lot of points, but defensively they were a top 10 team. And again, this defense is also the one that gave up only 3 points to the Cowboys in the season opener. I mean, we got to stop qualifying. We got to stop qualifying. Before the game, the Cowboys were not going to win because they can't win the playoffs because of Tom Brady and all this. And now after the game they won, we cannot qualify and say, well, they didn't beat a good team.
I think for me going into that game, they were the favorite. They were a better team. They won 12 games. Tampa Bay won 8.
They were
the better team.
They were favored by 2 against a team that should have been favored by 10 because no one trusted them. It wasn't like the Cowboys going to win. Yes, they should have won. They did win, but we cannot do that. They won a playoff game. Let's give them credit.
Absolutely deserve credit. Dak Prescott deserves credit. And we can state the obvious. Tampa Bay was 8-9 coming into the game. It wasn't like they were playing,
They were hot. Did you not know they won 2 of the last 3 games? They really showed they were getting it together. That's what I heard. They're getting it together. They were getting it together. They were showing that
45-year-old man.
They had that playoff medal. They were getting it together.
They weren't very good, and you know it. Before we get into the next topic, there's 2 other subjects from this game that we need to talk about, and we kind of touched on it there at the top. Tom Brady. If it was any other quarterback, we wouldn't talk about it here on Cowboys Overtime, but it's Tom Brady. Clarence, do you think that's the last game that Tom Brady will play in the NFL?
I don't know. It should be.
It
should be. You know, he should have won the Super Bowl 2 years ago and walked away on top of the world. I told you, Bill Belichick, I could do it without you. I proved I did it without you. It's time for me to quit. But no, he got the TB12 method or the 12 method, and he wants to continue playing. He shouldn't go out like this. I mean, this team is not going to win. You know, there's talk about he could go to San Francisco, or he could go to Oakland, he could go to Denver, or not Denver, excuse me. He could go to Miami. To do what?
I don't know.
To do what? He was awful.
Yeah, he was. And by the time he started racking up stats, the game was long gone. There were all those garbage time numbers. Everything was, like you said last week, everything's underneath. Everything is dink and dunk. And you can sit there and say, well, it's because of this, it's because of that. At the end of the day, he's not the same guy anymore. He's 45 years old. And the question I have is he ready to give it up? You and I have seen this time and time again where a guy retires, has second thoughts, and he comes back, and it's never the same. And Tom Brady was barely retired when he came back to tell the Bucs he wanted to play again. He wasn't the same. Now, I understood why after the Super Bowl with Tampa Bay, he came back. He was basically an MVP caliber player last season. He wasn't that guy. His numbers still look pretty good. And I can understand if you're a desperate NFL franchise for a quarterback like Tennessee, where you're looking around like, I don't like who we've got. Let's give this guy a shot for 1 year, or even the Colts, anybody. But if you're Tom Brady, you have to go to a team that is ready to win right now. And I don't know where that team is for Tom Brady. So,
and the problem is, you may be the weak link on that team that's ready to win, because he's still not the same player. You know, it's funny. As a child, I grew up watching Muhammad Ali go long past his prime. I mean, you know, Tom Brady's 7 Super Bowl titles. Kids don't need to see Tom looking like this. You should. I mean, seriously. John Elway did it best. Walk out on top, baby.
Brady did it. You know, Elway did it the right way. Peyton Manning, when he won that last Super Bowl, he was finished.
Right.
His arm just couldn't do it anymore, and he knew it. And it's funny you bring up that analogy of Ali, because, you know, you're a few years older than me, and the only fight that I remember, Clarence, of watching of Ali was the fight against Larry Holmes.
Right, he got killed. I mean, you don't want to.
Oh, he did get killed.
Yeah, all this stuff about it, or the Sphinx fight. I mean, like all this stuff about you hear about the legend. You grew up with the legend, and all you knew about the legend of Ali and all the greatness and the Ali fights. And then you finally get to watch him, and that's what you see. I mean, it's a letdown.
It is. It's a letdown, and it's sad. And anytime I watch these guys struggle with this, and they struggle with it for all the right reasons. It's their identity. They're scared of letting go and transitioning to the next phase of their life. It's a big change, especially for a guy like Tom Brady, he's 45 years old. He's played football probably for as long as he can remember. That's an astonishing feat. Just to say all of that's astonishing. And I do think sometimes that we forget that this is a guy's life, and to let go of that's tough. And when I think of that, I always think of what Nolan Ryan told Roger Clemens, because Roger was debating whether to retire or not. And Nolan told him the game will tell you when it's time to retire, because unless it's your body, the game will tell you when it's time. And I think if you watch that game on Monday night, it's pretty self-evident. The game is telling Tom Brady it's time to retire. And if he doesn't, he can expect more of what he saw this season, which is he's just not the same guy anymore. Okay, let's move on to the next topic. And this is previewing the NFC divisional round game between Dallas at San Francisco on Sunday in Santa Clara. Easily one of the most anticipated defensive matchups we've seen in a long time, which is the Dallas Cowboys defensive end / linebacker Micah Parsons, and against potential 2022 NFL Defensive Player of the Year candidate, San Francisco's Joey Bosa. Both of these players are spectacular. Joey Bosa, not sure we have Nick Bosa. This is an honest mistake there. An honest mistake. We have Nick Bosa in that picture. We have Joey Bosa's brother in that picture as opposed to Nick. Joey's a defensive end for San Francisco. His brother plays for the LA Chargers. No big deal. Anyways, Clarence, Micah Parsons had a good game on Monday night. Came off the field. It looks a little hobbled at the end of the first half. Came back, looked okay. Clarence, Micah Parsons is the young lion. He wants to be on top of the mountain as the defensive player of the year in the NFL. Joey Bosa, to me, right now is right there, too. Who you got?
Well, Joey Bosa is most likely going to win. He's the favorite. He's the best player on the best defense in the NFL. He has more sacks than Micah Parsons. But Micah Parsons has the ability to impact the game more than Joey Bosa.
Why do you say that? Why do you say that? I'm fascinated to say that. Why would you say that?
Because it's not just about sacks. It's about, him playing linebacker and tackles for losses and what he does for other people. And let's be honest, Joey Bosa has a better defensive line around him. Micah Parsons is a one-man wrecking crew for the Cowboys. Everything they do is centered around Micah Parsons. He sets the table. You watched him against Tampa Bay. Micah Parsons wrecked shop. He filled up a stat sheet with a sack, tackles for losses, opening the game with a tackle for loss, quarterback hits, quarterback hurries, setting things up, deflected passes. He does it all the things that he can do that Joey Bosa can't do. That one thing that Joey Bosa does, he does well. He's done it better than anybody in the NFL this year, and that's what gets the headlines. But if you look at what Micah is doing for this defense and the guys they have around him and what Joey Bosa does for that defense, Micah Parsons has a chance to impact the game. And the Cowboys will need him to be that guy against Tampa Bay on Sunday.
Clarence, we saw a change in the Dallas Cowboys offensive line against Tampa on Monday night. They had veteran Jason Peters in at left tackle. They moved Tyler Smith inside to guard, which is the position he played in college, and was thought to be the position he was going to play with the Cowboys until the Tyron Smith injury. How do you think that line is going to be aligned for Sunday in San Francisco? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, Peters.
But before I say that, Jason Peters had to leave early because of
Peters is out.
And is he out?
Yeah, he's pretty much out.
Okay.
And so they went back to the line they've had much of the year with Tyler Smith, the left tackle, and Connor McGovern, the left guard. The problem is that they were using Connor McGovern as the blocking fullback tight end guy. It was the jumbo package, which they hadn't been able to use all year when they had Jason Peters at left tackle and Tyler Smith at left guard to go with Tyron Smith, who actually had his best game in right guard of the season. He's finally getting his right guard feet under him and looking more like the player he had been because he had struggled up front for the past few games. But so they're going to go back with, they don't believe Peters is going to be ready. And so they're going to go back with the initial offensive line. But again, that's going to help. That's going to hurt them on their sub packages, on their jumbo packages, because the tight ends have not blocked well. And so they were trying to use Connor McGovern to help them block, and help them with the short yardage run game, get the run game back going again. And now they can't do that. But again, the thing that we don't talk about enough is the job that Tyler Smith, as a rookie, has done, moving from outside to inside to outside to inside. And we've heard so much about how tough it is. You don't put too much weight on them, don't put the mental weight on them, on rookies and offensive linemen have to change position. And this kid from Fort Worth, Crowley kid, has done a yeoman's job. And he had a great game against Tampa Bay on Sunday.
Yeah, that was a real find. You got to give Will. They had a terrific draft class. I know Deron Bland has been a real find, but certainly the way Tyler Smith has played as a rookie, to step in at a position that he wasn't necessarily thought to play, that he was going to be groomed for that position eventually behind Tyron Smith, and to walk in and to do as well as he's done. Give everybody credit. Give the Cowboys coaches credit. Give Tyler credit. Give Will McClay and that staff.
And you have to earn his money because Joey Bosa is coming after him.
Well, that's what I was just going to ask.
Again, now you just get back to Joey Bosa. They're going to try to take advantage.
How are they going to? Because Clarence, the one thing Mike McCarthy typically doesn't like to do is leave his tight ends in to chip and block. Well, okay, you hit the nail on the head. These tight ends are pass catchers. They're not really that great of blockers. Peyton Hendershot's an undrafted rookie out of Indiana. He's He's been a good find. He's contributed. Dalton Schultz had a great game receiving. He's not really a great blocker. Are they just going to have to eat it and do something that they don't want to do and leave those guys in the block? Or are they just going to hope that Tyler Smith and whomever is at running back can hold up against the best pass rushing defensive end in the NFL?
Yeah, I mean, they got to protect the quarterback. First of all, they got to set the edge and create some holes in the running game, but they got to protect the quarterback. So they're gonna max protect the time. Certainly, they're gonna use the tight ends and the running backs to help protect the quarterback. To get the ball down the field to the receivers. So look for some of that for sure.
All right. We got a lot more to talk about here about the Dallas Cowboys' upcoming playoff game in San Francisco. We will get to that after a word from the wonderful people at Window Nation.
Window Nation, the star of window replacement and proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys, can help you fill the house this season with savings. Buy 2 windows, get 2 free, and make no payments and pay no interest until 2025. Fill your house for a customized authentic Dallas Cowboys jersey while supplies last. You could even help fill the Cowboys house and win tickets to a game. Visit windownation.com/Cowboys now for details. Call 866-95-NATION. Window Nation, proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
All right. Thank you very much for joining us here on StarTelegram.com's weekly edition of Cowboys Overtime, where we have the great fortune of talking about a Dallas Cowboys playoff win as the Mike McCarthy Dallas Cowboys Revenge Tour continues. Not so sure about that. Last season, the Dallas Cowboys season ended in January with a horrible NFL, NFC, Super Wild Card round opening loss to the San Francisco 49ers in Arlington. It was the end of what had been a collapse to what otherwise was a really fun regular season. But the Cowboys lost that game in Arlington to the 49ers 23-17, a game in which Joey Bosa missed the second half with a leg injury. We thought that was going to change the game dramatically. It didn't. San Francisco's defensive line completely ate up the Dallas Cowboys. And really, it is not my biggest concern about this game, that as I looked at the playoff teams for the Cowboys, this was the team that scared me the most, simply because that defensive line at San Francisco can chew up offensive lines and get home with only 4 pass rushers and no extra help. Sometimes even only 3 guys are pressuring passers. Clarence, technically, this is part of the revenge tour. Are you buying that this is a good quality revenge candidate, or are you like me and they make you a little nervous for the sake of the Cowboys?
Well, and I just said revenge tour because Dak talked about it, been on the road and having to face teams that they've lost to before, going to Tampa and having to slay the dragon, never beating Tom Brady, and Tom Brady being 2-0 against Tampa. They lost 2-0, 2 straight games to Tampa the past 2 seasons. And now having to leave there and go to San Francisco, a team that knocked them out of the playoffs, a team that really have been the source of motivation. The game was a source of motivation the entire offseason. They've all talked about how they lost that game last year at home with the clock running out on Dak and them going into the game nervous. That was what was in their mind throughout the offseason. They talked about it at the start of the season. They talked about it throughout the season. This game was their motivating factor. The fact that most everybody came back. They had a collective group. They had a collective hurt that they could rely on. And now you get a chance to do something about it. You get to face the 49ers. This is real. This is real stuff. Now, you can't replay last year's game. This is a different game. They got different quarterbacks. It's a different team. It's at AT&T Stadium. It's a different challenge being on the road at San Francisco. But, hey, no one ever said if you're trying to go to the Super Bowl, trying to make history, they don't have layups. I mean, you want to say Tampa Bay's a layup? They have a layup, but you have to go and do it. It's going to be a tough challenge, but you have the proper motivation. It's a short week. It's unfair that they have to play the 49ers on the road after coming back from the East Coast, going back to the West Coast, with 49ers played on Saturday, the Cowboys played on Monday. It's a short week, but that's the job. Go do it. They should have proper motivation. They should have you shouldn't have to worry about them being focused going into this game.
Well, before the weekend started, we all thought that if the Cowboys did what they were supposed to do and win that game, that their next game would be at division rival Philadelphia. But the New York Giants upset the Minnesota Vikings, which screwed all of this up, which means the Cowboys have to go to Tampa, win that game, get on a plane, come home, and now they got to fly to the opposite coast, which is about a 3-hour flight to the Bay Area to play the 49ers. And what appears to be, at least according to the weather forecast, if you can believe it, should be pretty decent conditions in Santa Clara. Now, they've been getting a lot, like historic biblical rain up in that part of the country right now, but it looks as if, at least for the game, it'll just be cool, decent temperatures in the 50s. So at least that part of it is out of the equation, like horrible torrential rain. However, Clarence, when I looked at this matchup and I thought, okay, if they're going to get to the second round and they're going to go play Philly, I really like their chances against Philly. I don't like them as much against San Francisco, save for one reason. San Francisco is playing its third string quarterback. Brock Purdy continues to defy any and all NFL logic by continuing to win football games, even though he's a rookie, even though he's a 7th-round pick out of Iowa State. He didn't play well in the first half in the 49ers playoff win against Seattle over the weekend, but in the second half, he was great. The 49ers and Deebo Samuel and now Christian McCaffrey, whom they traded for in the middle of the season, tore Seattle up. Clarence, this is a matchup that does not make me feel good as a Cowboys observer. You?
No, I mean, with that defense, with that running game, with Deebo Samuels, the Cowboys have to tackle. They have to tackle. They have to tackle McCaffrey. They have to tackle Deebo. Those guys are hard to get on the ground. You know, this is going to be, the defense is going to have to step up for sure and put their big boy pants on, because it's going to be a physical football game. They're doing it again on a short week with Tampa, with the 49ers having the extra rest. But there's hope is in Brock Purdy. This is a guy, there are no quarterbacks who's been to the NFC title game before. Nobody left the NFC playoffs. None of these quarterbacks. There's no Aaron Rodgers. There's no Tom Brady. That guy's the most experienced quarterback left.
That's crazy.
It's the most
experienced. All the great ones are in the AFC. All those guys are dead.
Yeah, that's fine. But Dak is the most experienced quarterback left. So it's not about they got to beat some mythical figure out there who's done it before. None of these guys have done it before. And so that's where you have your edge. I mean, you have to have your edge. You have to lean on. If Dak can be the Dak he was against Tampa Bay, the Cowboys should have an edge. They should have a chance to win this game.
One place that we thought the Cowboys should have had an easy edge is kicker. We have to talk about the kicker. You saw something. We all saw something on Monday night that was historic. And I don't just mean the fact that it might have been Tom Brady's last game. We saw Dallas Cowboys place kicker Brett Maher, who had a phenomenal regular season. And that was coming after a time where we didn't think that the Dallas Cowboys really felt good about their place kicker. But Brett Maher came over here back to the team in the offseason, won the job in training camp, and was outstanding all year. Made 9 of 11 field goals from 50 yards and out. Made 91% of his kicks. Only missed 3 extra points all season. And then he goes on. I can't even believe I'm saying it. He missed his first 4 extra points on Monday night. That's an NFL record. Troy Aikman talked about it in the telecast. The longtime NFL color commentator, now former Dallas Cowboys quarterback in the Hall of Fame. He said, it's a problem. It's clearly in his head. You said off camera, Clarence, the Cowboys did not bring in a kicker to work out. That means they haven't lost confidence in him. I don't know how they haven't. Do you think this is an issue?
Oh, it's definitely an issue. I didn't say they're concerned, but they have to show support. They have to give, trust the process. I mean, who are you going to bring in at this point?
Oh, that's the problem. I mean, you would really.
You got a short week. Who are you going to bring in this week?
I don't know.
Unless you got to rely on a guy who had the greatest kicking season of any Cowboys kicker in history, and you got to hope that he can get it back. But the sad part is he's been there before. He was great before, and then he went off the reservation, which was they had to cut it. Right. And is it back to that point where is it back in his head where you can't get it back? That's the frustrating thing about it, because we've seen him before. We've seen him be great before, and then all of a sudden he got so bad they had to get rid of it. And they stuck by him longer than they should have because of his history. If you remember.
Oh yeah, I know.
And now again they're having to stick by him because of his history, because of what he's shown. but you just can't. I mean, these are extra points. We're talking about this NFC title game at San Francisco with the win, on grass, on the road. You're the underdog. Every point matters. It was just so crazy to me. You're missed those first 2 extra points. You're thinking the Cowboys are going to take the lead and Brady's going to come back and lose by 2 points because of the damn kicker. Then it's going to be Dak's fault. Dak should have scored more points. Whatever else. But it's just like, it's always something, and it's crazy. But, yeah, they got to get it fixed. They're showing support. They're showing trust. But he has the yips. He's like, Steve Sachs, couldn't get the ball to first base, as second base. But there's something wrong with his process. All those missed field goals, they had their own story. There was something different about each one. But the bottom line is he missed them.
No, and there's no good way to get around it. And the thing that I wrote about it because, the yips are a fascinating reality in sports, and it can affect golfers. It affects baseball players. It affects, you mentioned Steve Sachs, Chuck Knobloch, Mackie Sasser, Gerald Saltalamacchia. These were all guys who had played baseball forever. And then all of a sudden, for some reason or other, the mechanics just escaped them. It happened to David Duval, a PGA Tour golfer who was really on his way to be a great player. Right around the time Tiger Woods came on, he just lost it. And he still played, but he was never the same guy. As far as kickers, the one that I remember the most is Mike Vanderjagt. Mike Vanderjagt was a Pro Bowl kicker with the Colts, had a playoff game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Game the Colts should have won. They were going for a tying field goal from like 40, 45 yards out with 10 seconds to go. He missed the kick. The Colts cut him. The Cowboys signed him. It was Bill Parcells last year, I believe. He missed kicks. The Cowboys cut him in the middle of the year because they knew he'd lost it. And that it can happen, and it happens with no warning, and it just comes out of thin air that all of a sudden a guy that was so reliable to nail it just gets in his head, and it's off by a fraction. And if you're off by a fraction, then that's 3 points. Or in this case, it's a point times 4. My question for you is, late in that game, the Dallas Cowboys were up comfortably. They faced a 4th and 4 from about the 20 or 15-yard line. It was the perfect opportunity for Mike McCarthy to trot Brett Maher out there for a makeable field goal to just get his confidence back. Instead, he goes for it on 4th and 4. The Dallas Cowboys score on a long touchdown pass to CeeDee Lamb. He comes back. Brett Maher comes out there and nails the extra point. Did you think at all that was the coach saying, you know what, I don't know if I have a lot of confidence in this guy tonight right now?
Oh, clearly they didn't have confidence in him. Game, but had a chance to get close. Tampa Bay just scored a touchdown. They needed to put him away. They needed to put him away.
So you thought that was a kill shot?
It was definitely a kill shot, but it's also, you don't trust the kicker, but it was also a kill shot. But that just tells you how much confidence they had in Dak in the offense at that point, because the play call was perfect. CD was wide open.
He was wide open.
Listen, love Todd Bowles, but they had that defense, Todd Bowles in knots. Kellerman called a perfect game, and that was another example of them calling the perfect game. They just had it going.
Yep, they did. And you're right. That was a kill shot play. But when I watched it, I thought, well, you've got 2 choices here. You can go for the field goal to try to build some confidence in this guy to make sure he can go out there and know he can make it. Or you just, you bludgeon the other team, and you're right. They're down.
You remember 49ers scored after. Tampa Bay scored after that, and then they got the.
They were not going to win that game.
I know, but you don't want to give them any life.
Come on,
you slay the dragon. You slay the dragon.
All right, last topic here on Cowboys Overtime we're going to tackle, because apparently if we don't bring up this subject in everything Cowboys related, we're not doing our job. Can we finally put to rest, Clarence, that Mike McCarthy's job is safe now?
I guess so. I mean,
I guess so. That's not very emphatic. Yes. Yes. I mean, come on.
You're the columnist. You're the one who always brings it up and always talks about it.
This is nonsense. That's a lie. I did not. They were never going to fire
You always do that. You always bring up Sean Payton. They're going to go get Sean Payton. They need Sean Payton.
No, we're going to go back.
Payton guy.
I was not.
Do it.
These
Poor
guys are the
Mike.
same guy.
Poor Mike. Man was dancing. Did you see him dancing after the game?
Those pretty sweet moves.
He was
That little
challenging
chain going.
Sean Payton doing it. He looked like the Kool-Aid man, actually, to me. He looked like the Kool-Aid man.
That's so
Hey,
mean.
breaking through. But
Oh,
we
that's an
talked to
old
Jerry
man
after the
reference.
game,
I
and
like
Jerry
that.
said, listen, I was very, very equivocal about Mike, and I'm not going to say it again. But listen, let's be honest, though. Does winning the wild card game mean anything?
Well, you just told me 30 minutes ago it was like, yes, slay the dragon.
That was Tom Brady.
No.
The real
No,
dragon
but in
is
our
the
world,
championship game.
no, it doesn't. The game they need to win is this one.
Game.
They won a road playoff game for the first time in 30 years. That's embarrassing. No, in my mind, you have to win this one. Stephen Jones said it in the offseason. He said it is about how we play in the playoffs. That's what's been missing. Jason Garrett had some good seasons. They never won a divisional round game. Mike McCarthy's had back-to-back really good regular seasons. They lost the opening round game last year. They won it this year. Can you win a divisional round game?
Exactly.
That's it. They're not firing them, though. You and I both know what's going to happen. They're going to go out there on Sunday. They're going to play a competitive game, and they're going to lose. And it's going to be the exact same thing. Good regular season.
And then you lose Dan Quinn.
Yep, he's gone.
And then you got to replace him with defense coordinator. Do you trust Mike McCarthy to win without Dan Quinn?
That's a really good question. Because he brought his boy Nolan in the first time, and that was a fiasco. I don't know. That's a really good question, because to sit here and suggest that this defense isn't dramatically better under Dan Quinn is stupid. They've played a lot better. I don't know, man. That's a good question, because this defense is going to lose some guys. And we didn't talk about Leighton Vander Esch. Leighton Vander Esch came back, and he had a hell of a game. He looked great.
They got to re-sign Leighton Vander Esch.
But they're not going to. They're going to give him a one-year deal. They're going to give him a one-year deal, and he's going to take multi-years because he's a smart guy from some other team. Because if he doesn't get a multi-year deal, he's not going to get one again. So he better take 2 or 3 years from somebody else, because he's not going to get it from these guys. You know that. So to me, this comes down to, can you win
beat Frisco?
Thank you.
Beat Frisco. Beat San Francisco. Go down there and beat them. Beat Bosa.
Beat Bosa. Beat Brock Purdy. Why are all these NFL teams making Brock Purdy look like he was something other than what he was? This is a guy at Iowa State.
Go take Debo's bike.
Like Peyton Manning.
Go take Debo's bike.
Last thing here on Cowboys Overtime, Clarence, who has the bigger forehead, you or me?
Come on, man. Stop it. That's because your hair I'm getting your hair forward. Get off my forehead.
No, this is pretty bad, brother. This thing's getting big. Like, I could put a map of the United States up here. All right. This has been a lot of fun. Clarence, I look forward to seeing you out in San Francisco. I'm going on the road this time to cover a Cowboys game. Let's bring back a big win so we have more to talk about here on Cowboys Overtime. For all of your Cowboys coverage needs, check out Clarence Hill, me and everybody else on StarTelegram.com. We will see you next week.